The choice was made, or the opportunity, as I saw it, to make the film an R-rated film, and so there were two real things that I, as the lead storyteller on this, wanted to ask myself, and then make sure that we never forgot sight of, which is one, none of the violence, while it is a sort of grindhouse film where there is a lot of stylized violence, it is not in there. Without it having a basis in what the character is going through. And in a way, what we were trying to show very seriously is this journey of how an innocent, 13, 14, 15-year-old kid becomes a vigilante killer later in his life, right? What is that arc? There was a justification for it. There was justice, right? It's like, these were bad guys and I just took them off the planet, and that feels good. And instead of realizing that really only leads to chaos, this character dove into that, and that's really the story. So you really would not have been able to walk anywhere near any of those topics, in a PG-13 film. They just don't let you get close to it, and in a way, it sort of set up a foundation for the violence that we already had in the rest of the film. We've been able to hone this down to, a story that I'm really proud of. It is a family saga. It is a family tragedy, but it is also, a great, great barn burner of a story where you realize, there's a lot of things I think people will realize in their own families here, which is the complexity of your relationship with your parents, with your siblings, with your half siblings. What are you jealous of? What do are you comfortable in your own skin? What would you do if you were given the opportunity to fix what you perceive to be your greatest weaknesses? But I think, like any good villain story, there's a price to pay when you try and take a shortcut, or you try and step outside of who you really are. And all the characters in this film now, I didn't really know this when we started, but all the characters, when I look at it now, they all are trying to sort of be more than what they actually were given, and in a way, not doing the hard work to progress beyond that. They want shortcuts, and that leads to not great places. So it's the short answer to your question is, at its core, it was one of the things that drew me to it, which is that we're telling all these other stories, but we're also hopefully just giving you a good old fashioned Russian gangster story. One of the great joys and pleasures and frankly luck of my career is that I've always been able to work with unbelievable talent. When Aaron and I sat down that first time and he walked in the room, I sort of knew, and I think he wanted it. So that was the first piece, and then from there, what I've learned through all my other films is you build an ensemble one at a time. You don't try and do it sort of all at once. You want to kind of almost work from the middle out. And as we started to put, these pieces together, it was, you don't know if they're going to say yes, but it was a pretty special. It did feel a little bit like the way my first film, Margin Call, did, that we just started adding on and on, and so Ariana DeBose plays the role of Calypso, which was she was coming off, I think, an Oscar win for her film at that time, and she's also a dancer and a singer and a stage performer, and so her physicality, we knew we were going to need to have that be a dynamic part of the film. And then, Fred Hechinger, who plays Kraven's brother, which is this amazing, I love that part of that role. It's one of my my most. I just love the arc that character gets to go through in this film, and then to get Russell Crowe to play the dad, the patriarch of this, which is an amazing role. He came in, and it was like taking something that really could have been very arch and almost disappeared and just become sort of a thing. It's one of the most dynamic parts of the film. I mean, Russell's scenes with the boys, both as young boys and as older, are some of my favorite scenes I've ever directed in a movie, because there really is this family story at the heart of this, and in a way, even though it is this big, fun, arch film, Marvel film, at its core, it is that family saga. And I think a great actor like Russell, he helped bring that there. And then I was able to cast two of my dear friends, Alessandro Nivola and Christopher Abbott, in these two villain parts, which was so fun to have them in England, with us shooting, just from a personal standpoint. But they also are, they've been in other films of mine, and they are these amazing, like, dynamic, classic actors who, I think when people get a chance to see what they both did with those two characters, it's a really fun villain's journey that they go on, and they're just Alessandro's Rhino is more than I, quite frankly, ever could have hoped for that role. Aaron's an amazing collaborator. He's been at this since I think he was 10 or 11 years old or something. He's been a professional actor since he was like a kid. So he's wise beyond his years. That's for sure. He's a very serious, hardworking, shows up on time, does his homework. I mean, all these basic things that you'd be amazed isn't always the case. So he checks all those boxes off, that he's just an amazingly hardworking, engaged guy. But he also comes from a background of dance, which seems sort of like a strange thing, but that control of his body and his ability to physically transform his body and move, he can move muscles in his face that I didn't even know existed, and he's also just an amazing, nimble, physical actor, where he can, to say nothing for the fact of the way he physically transformed his body into sort of a work of art in a scary way on the movie, just gaining muscle, gaining it down, but never losing that ability to of a great dancer, and that ability to move like a nimble, like an animal in a ways. And I think when people see the film, they'll see that physicality is really quite something.